I want you to hear about a business venture. You go out and collect thousands of tons of rotting waste. Then you bring it home to raise flies, billions of flies. If you pitched this idea to investors, they would call you crazy. And in fact, 48 professional investment funds laughed right in the face of the woman who came up with this idea. But today, that crazy idea has become a biotechnology empire that the Australian government has poured millions of dollars into protecting. These tiny monsters that people once despised are now being integrated with robots and artificial intelligence to create the most perfect waste-digesting machine on the planet. They are squeezing massive landfills out of existence and creating an entirely new economy. How did the most disgusting idea in the world become the technology Australia wants more than anything else right now? Humans are the only creatures on Earth that know how to create something called waste. In nature, the death of one organism becomes food for another. But humans do not work that way. We throw everything away. In Australia alone, the country discards 7.6 million tons of food every year. That food is worth as much as 36.6 billion Australian dollars. These are slightly bruised tomatoes, loaves of bread that expire before they even reach the shelves, or tons of fried chicken thrown away after closing time. But the waste of money is only the tip of the iceberg. Did you know that if food waste were a country, it would be the third largest emitter of greenhouse gases in the entire world, behind only the United States and China? When you throw half a hamburger into a red-lidded trash bin, a garbage truck carries it to enormous landfills far outside the city. There, the food is buried beneath tons of other waste, compressed so tightly that not even a trace of oxygen can get inside. When food decomposes in an oxygen-starved environment, it does not turn into soil. It produces methane, a greenhouse gas with 30 times more heat-trapping power than carbon dioxide. The beautiful city of Sydney, home to 66% of the population of New South Wales, has officially run out of space to bury its waste. Landfills are swelling like cancerous tumors across the surface of the Earth, silently leaking toxic gases into the sky and harmful chemicals into underground water supplies. The United Nations has issued a severe warning. By the year 2030, Australia must completely ban the disposal of organic waste in landfills. Time is running out. They need a system that can process waste dozens of times faster than nature. Forget the filthy, disease-carrying houseflies buzzing around your plate of food. The creatures being raised inside containers in Australia belong to an entirely different class. They are black soldier flies. Scientists call them the most perfect biological conversion machines on the planet. Why? First, adult black soldier flies do not even have mouths designed for chewing. That is right. You heard correctly. Once they emerge as winged flies, they lose their functional mouthparts, do not eat, do not bite, do not carry disease, and live for only a few days with one single purpose, to mate and lay eggs. A single female can lay as many as 500 tiny eggs. And when those eggs hatch into larvae, that is when the real magic begins. During the larval stage, they become the most brutal food-grinding machines imaginable. A single black soldier fly larva can eat an amount of waste equal to twice its own body weight every day. They grow at an explosive rate, increasing in size by thousands of times in less than 2 weeks. They feed so intensely that the heat generated by millions of maggots rubbing against one another can reach 50 degrees Celsius. But releasing maggots into an open landfill would be a terrible idea. Unpredictable weather, toxic chemicals, and heavy metals such as cadmium inside the landfill would kill them or turn them into capsules filled with poison. That is why the robotic containers developed by the biotechnology company GoTerra were created. These containers are designed like perfect artificial wombs. The process works like this. Waste from supermarkets is poured into the container's intake system. Robotic arms and centrifugal machines immediately remove plastic bags, plastic materials, and packaging. The purified organic waste is crushed into a thick slurry and pumped into breeding trays. Inside, artificial intelligence sensors operate continuously. The AI measures oxygen concentration, humidity, and temperature. If the maggots eat too quickly and the temperature rises, the robots automatically pump in cool air. In exactly 12 days, 15 million maggots can eliminate 5 tons of waste. Instead of waiting 12 weeks for the waste to rot and stink inside a landfill, this system reduces the process to less than 2 weeks. And the most astonishing part? Every ton of waste sent to a landfill produces 1,700 kilograms of carbon emissions. But when it is fed to the maggots, that number falls to only 35 kilograms. An almost unbelievable reduction. Using artificial intelligence to raise maggots that clean up waste on Earth is already an extraordinary technological achievement. But what would you think if I told you that NASA and the European Space Agency are spending millions of dollars researching how to send these very same maggots into space? What comes next will completely change the way you see this insect. When humanity began planning to settle on Mars, we faced a matter of survival. How can we produce our own food on a dead planet? You cannot bring garbage trucks with you, and you cannot throw leftover food into outer space. Everything has to be recycled 100%. The European Space Agency's Melissa project has identified the black soldier fly as the perfect missing piece for a closed-loop ecosystem beyond Earth. Inside a future Mars space station, astronauts' organic waste, along with the inedible stems and roots of hydroponic crops, will be shredded and fed to black soldier fly larvae. The larvae will break down this waste at an astonishing speed. But more importantly, the larvae themselves, once they become plump and fully grown, contain up to 50% ultra-pure protein and 30% fat. This is a true superfood. They can be dried and ground into powder to produce feed for fish or chickens raised aboard the space station, or even baked into high-protein cookies for the astronauts themselves. Black soldier flies do not need sunlight to grow, require very little water, and occupy only a tiny fraction of the space needed for raising livestock. They may well be the key to humanity's survival in deep space. The world is facing a fish meal crisis. To raise the rich, fatty salmon and the fresh shrimp you enjoy at restaurants, the aquaculture industry depends on a feed ingredient known as fish meal. And to produce that fish meal, massive industrial fishing fleets are stripping millions of tons of small fish from the oceans. We are draining the natural food supply of whales, dolphins, and seabirds simply to raise fish in artificial farms. A vicious cycle of ecological destruction. The arrival of black soldier fly larvae has broken this destructive cycle. After 12 days of feasting on food waste, the mature larvae are harvested. They are dried and ground into a meal that can completely replace traditional fish meal and soybean meal. Nutritional studies published in 2024 show that black soldier fly larvae are highly digestible for both poultry and farmed fish. Instead of stripping fish from the oceans, we are now using a city's food waste to raise more fish. One solution, 2 major problems solved. And it does not stop there. Let's talk about what the larvae leave behind their waste. Don't wrinkle your nose. Black soldier fly frass is considered black gold in modern agriculture. Scientific research published in 2022 demonstrated that it contains an ideal balance of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, along with billions of beneficial microorganisms that enrich the soil. The miracle of the circular economy has already become reality at the 5-star Hyatt Regency Hotel in Sydney. Every day, the hotel throws away 500 kilograms of orange peels, watermelon rinds, and kitchen scraps. Instead of hauling them to a landfill, everything is sent directly into GoTerra's container system located beneath the hotel's basement. No foul odors, no swarms of flies, a 100% closed-loop system. The larvae consume the hotel's food waste and produce organic fertilizer. That fertilizer is transported to the Four Winds vineyard in Murrumbateman, where it nourishes the grapevines. The vines absorb the nutrients from the soil, produce grapes, and those grapes are crafted into the premium wine collection known as the Circular Vintage Series. Those fine bottles are then served back to guests at the Hyatt Regency itself. Yesterday's waste has become today's expensive glass of wine. A remarkable technology that works from the microscopic scale to the grandest scale, from a hotel basement all the way to outer space. But do you know who invented this robotic insect farming system? It was not Elon Musk. It was not a Harvard scientist. Meet Olympia Yager. In 2014, she was simply a 47-year-old single mother struggling under intense personal pressure. Driven by a deep love for agriculture, she kept asking herself, how can farming become less wasteful? According to Forbes magazine, 70% of agricultural production costs go toward buying animal feed. Olympia came up with the idea of using black soldier flies to eat waste and turn it into livestock feed. She launched the business in her backyard garage with a few cheap plastic containers, but harsh reality dealt her a painful blow. Because she could not control the temperature, the larvae died in huge numbers. Their decomposition created an unbearably foul stench. The neighbors became furious and signed a petition demanding that she leave. But the greatest barrier was not technical. It was evolutionary psychology. Human beings have been genetically programmed over millions of years to feel disgust toward maggots. Nausea is actually a defensive mechanism developed by the brain to protect our ancestors from rotting food and disease. When Olympia took her waste-fed maggot farming business plan to investors, the sharply dressed financiers at investment funds laughed in her face. They rejected her once, twice, and a total of 48 times. Who would want to invest millions of dollars in filthy maggots when they could invest in mobile apps, artificial intelligence, or cryptocurrency? But the stubborn determination of a single mother eventually prevailed. Olympia realized that she had to transform the idea through technology. Instead of raising maggots inside a foul-smelling garage, she integrated the insect's entire life cycle into robotic container systems. The brilliance of the idea was simple. Bring the solution to the waste instead of transporting the waste to the solution. Her persistence was rewarded with a massive investment of $8 million from Grok Ventures. GoTerra was born and began working directly with the mayor of Sydney to process thousands of tons of waste, once dismissed as a madwoman. Olympia Yager is now celebrated as someone reshaping the future of Australia's environment. If your idea were rejected 48 times, would you keep going for the 49th? Sometimes greatness is simply the power of refusing to give up. The world has finally awakened. According to economic forecasts, the global insect farming market is expected to be worth billions of dollars by the year 2030. What GoTerra has accomplished in Australia is merely the opening shot of a revolution on a far greater scale. In France, take a look at InnovaFeed. The Washington Post describes it not as a farm, but as a massive industrial superfactory covering 55,000 square meters. They are not raising a few million, but 10 billion black soldier fly larvae at the same time. The maggots are fed with byproducts from enormous agricultural processing plants, producing 15,000 tons of pure protein every year to supply the giant Nestlé. In the United Kingdom, the company Better Origin uses AI-powered containers similar to those developed by GoTerra. Supermarket vegetable waste goes in, is transformed into chicken feed, and the chickens lay carbon-neutral certified eggs that are placed right back onto the shelves of those very same supermarkets. We are living in a world whose population is about to reach 10 billion people. Demand for meat, fish, and protein is reaching its peak, while land is degrading. Tropical forests are being cut down to grow soybeans, and the oceans are being depleted. We can no longer continue the model of produce, consume, discard. Humans call themselves the most intelligent creatures on Earth. Yet we are the only species that has created the concept of waste. In a primeval forest, a fallen leaf becomes fertilizer for a young plant, while the carcass of a deer becomes a feast for vultures and fungi. Nature is a perfectly closed circle. By placing millions of black soldier fly larvae inside high-tech containers, humanity is not inventing anything new. We are simply casting aside our arrogance, learning humility, and copying the way nature has operated for hundreds of millions of years. The salvation of humanity, ironically, may lie in the tiny, wriggling creatures we once found most disgusting. So, what do you think about this technology? In the next 5 years, would you be willing to use livestock products made with feed produced from waste-eating larvae? Or going even further, would you be willing to directly eat insect protein products if that day truly comes? Leave a comment and join the discussion with us below. If this video has given you fresh and extraordinary perspectives on the world, do not forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. Our journey to uncover humanity's greatest technological mysteries on this channel has only just begun. Goodbye, and see you again.